Today is Wednesday, February 28th, and this is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Can I have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open.
Second? All in favor? Okay, the board will be going into executive session to convene for the purpose of, oh, this is updated for me. To conduct a grievance hearing with our district attorney and collective negotiations under the Taylor Law. Medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I have a motion to move into exec? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the board will be back at approximately 7 p.m. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, February 28th, and this is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Will you please stand for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for joining us this evening. Before we get into our agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trombley because we have some wonderful recognition this evening.
Thank you, President Bernard. I apologize for us coming back from executive session. We had quite a bit of work to do, and your board was working very diligently to make sure we did it effectively and efficiently. So this is the best part of every meeting where we get to recognize some of our students' achievements. So tonight we are recognizing, and if I mispronounce your name, please correct me. I want to make sure I get it correct. Tonight we're recognizing Sophia Jimda and Nico Bianchi on the recent selection and participation in the High School Honors Performance Series at Carnegie Hall. At this time, to introduce them, I would like to call Hendrick Hudson High School Orchestra Director, Lauren Moravito, to the podium to recognize these wonderful scholar musicians.
Good evening. I didn't know I was supposed to say anything, but Sophia Jimdar and Nico Bianchi both play violin in our high school orchestra. They both applied for and were accepted to the Honors Performance Series at Carnegie Hall. It is an international program with students from all over the country and outside of the country, including students from Guam, New Zealand, and South Korea, as well as I think 49 out of the 50 states. So yeah, so pretty selective process. We went a couple weeks ago to New York City. They were there for about 5 days, and yeah, it was a wonderful experience. So congratulations, Sophia and Nico.
So why don't you call Sophia and Nico up for a brief picture with. So I do have to ask a question, and it's bad superintendent joke time. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Yeah.
Or you can just participate in the high school honors orchestra program.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're gonna look at this picture right here.
Mine. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our agenda, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
Motion.
Have a second? All in favor? Okay, next is our audience comments on non-agenda items. Carmen, do we have anyone signed up?
We do.
We do. Charles Wilson.
No, I can see that. All right. Okay. I'll give him a minute. He wasn't paying attention when we walked out. Okay. All right. Then we do not. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have anything to remove from the consent agenda this evening? Anything to? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
And a second. All in favor? Okay, and we are quickly at our audience comments on agenda items. There's nobody signed up. No? All right. And our next section is our policy readings. We have quite a few this evening. Let me get my large stack.
Can I make a motion to move them till after
Sure.
we do our
We
presentation?
can do that. So we are going to, yep, was everyone all in favor? Okay, it's 13. So we are making a motion to move section 8 policy readings down to after our section 10 presentations and discussions. And Mr. Tremblay, would you like to move your section?
I unfortunately cannot make that motion.
I
I
know,
would
is
be-
that
I
what
would be
you're,
willing to, yes, I'd be willing to.
to after?
To after.
Okay,
So
so,
make the motion
yeah,
to move the superintendent's report to after.
absolutely. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Okay, so we are moving section 9 superintendent's report to after section 10 presentation.
The
Just
administrator
before-
still have to stay connected. Okay.
So we're just shuffling for fun. Okay, so we are cruising over the policies. And the superintendent's report, okay. So we are at our presentation section of the meeting, which is part of our budget development process. Tonight, we are doing our K through 12 program budget, which is a really large, important part of planning for the budget for next school year. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Trombley and Dr. Roller, I'm guessing.
Yes, I will introduce Dr. Robert.
Great.
So, thank you, President Bernard. We continue on with our series of program budget presentations. I just want to do a quick reminder of our process. Currently, we are still in the phase of the superintendent's budget process. So this is where we're receiving input from you, input from a number of different streams, information streams to make sure we are tailoring a budget that we are prepared to present you for adoption that then becomes the a budget that you will present to the community for their approval on May 21st. And so that's just a quick reminder. If we go to our next slide, since this is about the fourth time we've seen this information, we've asked our presenters to give brief information on what their programs that they're presenting on. We've asked them to share their success stories of what they've used funds that they were approved for this year, what they plan to use funds for next year, and highlight any of those major changes. And this is a high-level overview of non-salary expenditures that are associated with those budget codes. At this Saturday's Day of Fun, as we are calling it within the administrative team, we will be going in a more detailed approach through our staffing budgets and the budget codes that you may not have seen in these evening presentations. And so we'd ask you to hold your questions because I know you're going to have a lot of questions to help you formulate which direction you'd like us to go, but also some great questions on what you might like us to consider until after Dr. Ruller and her team get the presentation. I want to review the current budget parameters that we are exploring and building the budget around currently. We have 3 new items that I want to highlight. We did a couple of weeks ago, after looking at the facilities and operations and maintenance budget, receive a parameter to include additional funding for more building maintenance projects. We did have to, as a result of current expenditure review, in other words, actual expenditures this year, we did have to increase our substitute coverage line. And then also, we have, based upon a number of different pieces of information that we received, we do see a need for options for improved human resources oversight, and particularly a dedicated personnel administrator to oversee that. And again, these parameters are subject to change during this phase of the superintendent's budget. Once adopted, that budget will be the budget that we present to the community, but I want to be clear that it is not necessarily all the details that you see in these presentations and the line by line. The budget that you adopt will be the overall spending total dollar that we request. just a follow-up from a previous presentation. We did, during her presentation, Ms. Liz Gilio, our supervisor of transportation, discuss a proposition that you'll see in addition to the budget proposition and the board election proposition. There will be a bus proposition. And the purpose of this is to continue to maintain a safe and effective fleet. This has been in the district, we did research since 1988 with a yearly proposal for continuous replacement of the buses to ensure that the buses that our children ride on are safe. This year's proposition will ask for 1 large passenger bus and 3 vans and 1 maintenance vehicle. We anticipate the proposition to state that the cost of the overall replacement cycle will not exceed $550,000. I give you reasons there as to why those particular vehicles are looking to be replaced. The only delay we saw in this from our investigation was during COVID when a GM factory actually shut down. We did not have a supply chain to address that. We also want to consider in the budget, rather than 60 days of AM, PM monitors for our K-12 bus runs, and if we take the same number of dollars that we would have spent on that, and if we would consider a longer term for 120 days of just PM monitors to be there with our children when they get off the bus. So that's something we would like you to consider as well.
Am I not following? What would be the difference?
Well, if we take the dollar amount that is associated with 60 days of morning and afternoon, having monitors on morning buses and afternoon buses, because it would be an hourly rate.
Yeah,
Rather than do that, if we could have a longer period of time of just having the monitors on the PM runs.
So you don't need them in the morning, just,
So you
yeah.
wouldn't have them in the morning because they're getting off at the school.
It's definitely much more simple, right? The hard part is making sure the kids know where they're getting off and or just getting on.
So we also did a lot of behavior on the bus.
Right.
Little ones.
We also have a hard time even getting consistent help for this amount of time, so.
Just a consideration
Yeah.
to think of.
Okay.
And the next slide, I will turn it over to Dr. Roller, our our executive director for curriculum instruction, professional learning, and personnel.
Yeah, I wore my heels tonight so I can reach the microphone. Hi, everybody. So I came with friends tonight and they will assist in the presentation and talk about some of the wonderful things we've been able to do this year. So we start every presentation by reiterating what our mission is, to ensure that each student is an engaged, passionate learner who achieves their maximum potential and contributes to society. And that certainly is the focus of curriculum and instruction. So these are the program highlights from this current year, which is the budget we're in. We put in place things at elementary, middle, high school, and one district-wide. So I'm going to invite my colleagues up to talk about how these fabulous additions have impacted our programs this year. Elementary.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us. We've had the distinct pleasure of bringing on a new position, a bilingual ENL teacher that's split between Furnace Woods and BV. It has been a tremendous addition, particularly for our newcomers, our entering and emerging students. This person has been really fantastic in integrating these students into the regular classroom, as well as working with them individually. The other piece that she's done a great job on is making a connection with parents and guardians. She's held a number of evening events, both in person and via Google Meet, to ensure that parents are signed up on Parent Square. They know how to use the Gmail and also our Infinite Campus access. Has done numerous different surveys with our parents to find out what their needs are, because as you would imagine, communication is often the roadblock to, really the flow of information. So she is working extremely hard, not only with our students, but with our parents, to make sure that our ELL students are as engaged as our students that are here that do speak English. So it's been a tremendous addition. She wears roller skates. She definitely runs from one building to the next, often eating a sandwich or her lunch or whatever. Really hard worker, and we're really happy to have her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Good evening, everyone. So I have the pleasure of talking about our new coaches. We have an ELA coach and a math coach this year for the elementary schools. And they have been working with the staff in numerous ways to help facilitate more effective instruction and provide support wherever needed. So just some of the highlights of things that they've done. They've provided various professional development opportunities for the teachers regarding a variety of topics, supported the teachers in sorting and analyzing data, and they're active members of the data teams in each building where we discuss individual students, but also data for grade level or across the building to see where we need to improve our instruction. They've done a lot of co-teaching where they're going to a classroom, they'll plan with the teacher, and then they'll teach a lesson together, and that way they can model strategies. They can also observe the teacher in action so they can talk about what changes might need to be made to lessons or how the teacher might improve their instruction. Planning with the teachers for the most effective way to teach new skills. Assisting teachers with incorporating higher level questioning into their teaching, that's for both ELA and math. And also for math, helping the students to think about math differently and to develop their math identities. So how do they see themselves in regards to math? They've done some faculty meetings with the different buildings, sharing different strategies and different programs that are available for the teachers. And the ELA coach specifically has been a great help in supporting the teachers who have been piloting the 2 potential ELA programs that we're looking at for next year for adoption. She's really done a great job of researching and looking ahead to help the teachers plan and figure out which pieces of the program are going to best suit the needs for their individual classrooms. And the math coach has brought us a new free program at the elementary schools, which we're really excited to learn more about in the coming weeks. It's called First in Math. And this program assists teachers in providing fluency practice and differentiation for all learners through a variety of math learning games. So those are just some highlights for the coaches, but they've really become a great part of the faculty in each of the buildings, and the teachers have really come to seek them out as a resource. So we're very thankful to have them. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. So the next one I'll talk about is the additional staff introduced class size. In 3rd, 4th, and 5th, they kept them away from the current cap. So I think average at DAV is 19 to 20 in 3rd, and 4th grade were between 21 and 23 students, and in 5th grade between 21 and 22 students. And what we've seen is an increase in the frequency of individual and small conferences between teachers and students, the ability to provide feedback on a smaller basis to each student more regularly, and less wait time when the students would like, opportunities to share in each class day. As far as music, there was an additional music teacher added, and he's done a great job with our current configuration, providing flexibility to Mr. Frank and Ms. Landry to schedule lessons with the least impact on instructional time for each teacher. And he's had opportunities to also assist with our PBIS initiatives and assemblies and collaborate amongst all the special area teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Good evening, everyone. The nice thing about being new to the middle school is not only do you get to learn a lot, but you kind of take on things that were already put in place and you got to try to put your own little stamp on it. So a couple of things that I want to highlight that's going on this year is how we revamped our unified arts courses, specifically our art and design course that's now a semester-long course that meets daily. And it's a co-taught course with Paul Giacchini and Logan Krause. And what they've done is they've taken on the computer science piece that was left when Rob Malfetta retired. And they're incorporating the computer science project Lead the Way curriculum with their art curriculum. And it's been great because the kids circulate through Paul and through Logan on specific units that they feel very comfortable teaching. All grades 6th, 7th, and 8th take the course. They'll take it for the 3 years that they're at the middle school. It allows students to integrate rural applications, STEAM-based projects, problem-based learning, all connected to the strategic plan that the district laid out last year. The feedback I've gotten from both Paul and Logan is very positive, that the kids are enjoying the course. I go to that course quite a bit. It's fun to see some of the projects they do. I saw a catapult lesson where they created a catapult and they connected some of the scientific concepts to that. So that was really neat as well. The other thing this year is the Bridges program for our ENL students. The Bridges to Academic Success is a curriculum development, teacher training project targeted at school improvement for multilingual learners. We've had a number of ENL students join the district. And what this curriculum does, it's designed to meet the language, literacy, academic, social, emotional needs of newcomer students. We have a lot of students that are new to the country, a lot of students that are behind over 2 grade levels in their native language. So this program that our 2 ENL teachers, Mr. Chico and Ms. Ward, were trained in was how to bridge that transition from the home language to a public school in New York State. A lot of schools throughout the state are using this particular program. Again, the feedback I've gotten from those 2 teachers is that the materials, the curriculum is beneficial for the kids. We do have a program for ELA and we do have a program for mathematics. We have an ENL integrated course and we have a standalone course. So there'll be a push in to an ELL class and then there'll be a pull out with just the ENL teacher. And the math is a standalone as well. Again, the feedback from those teachers has been extremely positive. Thank you, Ms. Goodine.
Erin, if you want to come up, I'll talk about Erin too. So I'm happy to highlight at the high school, and Erin jump in anytime, our Handheld Life course, which has been a great addition to our freshman experience. Really getting our students prepared and ready to become acclimated to the high school. Those executive functioning skills, they feel a connection to the school and really get to know what it's like to be a Handheld sailor. Recently I was in the class and they were working on procrastination. And I was sitting there taking the test and I was like, okay, I think I need to go back to my office and get some things done. But the kids were very honest and they really have a chance to have open and honest conversations, set goals for themselves. And the teachers, there are 3 teachers who are teaching it, are working together to make sure that it's a uniform experience for the students.
So, not only that, I mean, it's, also having the chance to observe the students, it's been excellent to really see the connection that the students make with some of these topics. Our curriculum that we use, School Connect, has been fantastic. It's up to date, it's lively, the students really, and the teachers are able to build on that. And not just, again, you're learning executive functioning skills, you're also learning the soft skills, which are really needed in terms of how to build those connections, conversations, how to look at how I'm studying, look at skills in terms of going home and making sure that my work is completed, but it's also the effectiveness of being a student and learning really how to talk to one another, how to build those relationships, which are really, really vital and important. So as students, again, are making the jump and the transition to high school, they don't forget these skills that they're going to need each and every year. So it's been going really well.
Procrastination one.
Yeah.
This year we also had the opportunity to bring in some AIS reading and math. AIS stands for Academic Intervention Support. And through this program, students, through data, we are identifying students who need additional support in reading and math. We also are able to run, part of the year this year, we had a social studies AIS as well as a science AIS program. And students who've been identified are able to flow seamlessly through that program. So today I got an email that one of our students who had been in AIS reading and getting support with reading and writing over the last 12 weeks has graduated from the program and is back to his regular classes and gets his study hall and is able to do all of the things and has graduated out of that experience. So while we continue to track those students, it's an opportunity for us to tailor and target instruction based on specific student needs. Anthony did touch on our ENL Bridges curriculum, but it is an exciting time to have this opportunity. We had approximately 50 newcomers and new students this year who speak another language. So it's an important program that we've put into place to support those students.
The last, which is K-12, and I can start us off here, as I'm happy to talk about our Director of Guidance, and all of the wonderful work that Dr. Kleinman has done and really bring together, all of the counselors, and I'm so grateful for his partnership at the high school as we really take a look at our scheduling process, and oversight there. Come up and talk a little bit about yourself.
Right, I'm trying to keep it short and talk about myself. It's been a great pleasure to be here. I really each and every day come in and work with some great colleagues and counselors to really try to understand our processes and where we're going. I'm more of an operational kind of person, so each and every day I've got my ear to the ground, understanding what's going on in the counseling office, working with our counselors on how it's here at the high school, although I do make my efforts to get to the middle school and our elementary counselors as well. We've done a tremendous job in terms of laying out the curriculum. So I feel as though we have really moved forward in terms of the counseling processes. We have done a lot in terms of communication. We've increased our communication with not only weekly updates that Lauren sends out, but we have our newsletter, we have our counseling calendar. We also follow our comprehensive plan, which we are aligned with American School Counselor Association standards. So each and every opportunity to work with counselors and making sure that we are not just again following our comprehensive plan, supporting students, understanding concerns, and helping students thrive. In terms of what we've done this year, our programming has increased. We've done not only our college evening programs, we've done our FAFSA nights. We've done last week in the middle of February, did our Spanish speaking FAFSA evening program for students and parents of Spanish speaking. And it was great. So we're looking to build on that. We're looking also, we've done a college fair during our PSAT days and trying to look at what we have done and also increase some of our programming and also being transparent to our community and our students. And it's something that, it's a work in progress and something that I'm very, very happy to say that we've kind of moved the needle in terms of counseling and efforts. So, thank you.
Everybody. And I have to say that this is really a great team to work with. And I will say in particular that I've not in any similar position been responsible for overseeing the Director of Guidance and the counselors. So this is a learning experience for me as well. And it has been fabulous working with Aaron. We've had some great conversations about possible next steps, some of the puzzling that we're doing about particular students, and he's always open to chatting and open to brainstorming. So I value the collaboration that we have here, and I'm glad that they were able to join you tonight and tell you how those additions have impacted and improved the instruction and the environment in their own schools. So let's talk about next year. So requests or additions coming our way in 24-25. Everyone here, everyone listening probably knows that we've been piloting 2 potential ELA programs. We actually met as an elementary division on Monday at Frank G and had a nice conversation together before we came to a final decision. So we will likely be coming back to this presentation event to share with you what that is and make a formal proposal to the superintendent of schools and the Board of Education. We are adding an additional AIS math teacher as we reorganize for our second version of grade banding. We ended with 2 pre-K 2 schools and 1 3-4-5 school. Because that 3-4-5 school is twice the size of the pre-K 2s, to be able to balance effective and efficient servicing, we will need to add an additional math teacher. We will also need to add an additional ENL teacher. I will say that those are budget neutral additions because we have repurposed existing staff. The middle school and the high school, we started down the road already with some ENL PD with some folks that Anicia and Lauren and I have met through some BOCES conversations, and they have proved to be a pretty powerful influence. They started to work with the high school. Lauren and I are working on formalizing an agreement with them to bring them back next year and to roll the middle school into that process. Science PD, so the next generation standards for the science courses has finally reached the impact at the high school level. And again, this began already this year. Tom Confrey, who's our fabulous science IL at the high school, has led his colleagues through some of that professional development already. The first to be impacted will be living environment and then earth science. So once again, we have been in touch with a woman who has been a powerful influence with that very effective team. And we have contracted with Liz Mira to come back and do some work over the summer with our living environment and earth science teachers. And then over the next year, we'll continue, but then we'll expand to some of the additional science courses that we teach. So they're looking at, science has been turned on its head. It is much more experiential now than it has ever been. Children are asked to look at phenomenon and make an analysis. The old experiments that we all experienced in school are not like that anymore. They're very open-ended. It's not a step-by-step. Kids come to conclusions. They have to iterate. So it's a different experience for them instructionally. And then lastly, we're looking at a program to bring to the middle school, which will be a career exploration sequence at their unified arts rotation. We've been in touch with people, thankfully. Lauren recommended that program to us from her experiences in Croton. Anthony and Anisi and I are meeting, I think on Friday, to go through some of the information that she has shared. It does look very interesting. We will bring it to some of the staff because obviously they will need to be the people teaching it. But we do believe that will be a strong addition next year for the middle school. Okay, oh my, that's tiny. So this is the budget codes that I am responsible for in curriculum and instruction and personnel, because the first one up there, I still can't see that without my reading glasses, Carmen, but thank you. What you're going to see here are some big changes, and we can talk about that, and some that are, just what you would normally expect. Personnel, you can see, is part of, it's contractual, it's some BOCES codes that we get involved with. Curriculum, the 2010 code, curriculum development and supervision, you see an increase there that reflects the potential PD costs for the new ELA program. 2110 curriculum materials, including textbooks, and that does include the funding that comes from the state level. There's a footnote there for that, and that reflects the anticipated purchase of the ELA program, and also about $165,000 in codes that we took away from my colleague Vinitha and moved to its rightful place in curriculum and instruction. So she did not have to report on those this year because they're in the curriculum budget. 2610 library, databases and materials such as that, not much of an increase there. 2630 computer aided instruction, also funded through New York State. That's very small. There are just a couple of programs that we purchased, and actually mostly for music and art that we've put under those codes. But you see a hefty increase there. I hope now that we have zeroed in on the program that we prefer, that over the next couple of weeks, I can refine that budget number for us, and we'll go back and take a look at that. A lot of money that flows through curriculum and gets a lot of our work done comes through the consolidated title app. So the title grants are here. The tricky part, and I say this every year because it's true with title grants, is that you really never know what the funding will be. We've been lucky that, we haven't seen precipitous drops. Title I, which is the title grant that supports struggling learners. You can see there that, let me put my glasses on, I can read it from. You can see there that that particular title grant saw a very generous increase. And I can remember having this conversation with Dennis, and he said, oh, the wealth ratio kicked in, and there you go. So we received a substantial increase this year. I understand from talking to Mike that we were not alone in receiving that increase. Title II supports professional development in the district. And again, there's a slight increase there. And of course, we don't know what we're receiving until somewhere around July. Title III is the ENL part of the title grants. It supports largely translation services, professional development for our ENL staff, materials and supplies, and some of the events that they hold for our ENL parents are also permissible to be taken out of that funding. Title IV supports a whole host of interesting things. It's not, it's not really a lot of money, and it always hovers around that same dollar amount. We have in the past used it, I think a year ago, we used it to support some of the tech coach work. We also used it to purchase a math program that the elementary division was using. This year, we did not have those requests, so we transferred that Title IV amount into Title I and used it to continue those services. So thank you on behalf of our kids, on behalf of our staff who have benefited from all of this. And also all of us who you help make our job easier by giving us the opportunity to bring in the programs and the folks that we need to work with.
Thank you, Dr. Roller.
Thank
And thank you to our administrative team. We'll ask you to stick around in case there's questions from the board, but we'll get to you very quickly. We can go to the next slide. Our Assistant Superintendent for Business could not join us this evening, but we do have his financial projections from the last presentation. You will have an updated financial projection for this Saturday's line-by-line budget review, but we do include this for context, as well as the next slide, the nutritional guidance for our tax cap. That it does look like that.
It does.
So, that is the same from the February 7th presentation as well, but we will provide you with updated numbers for our line-by-line review, but then just for context to help lead us into discussion. I do want to pay attention to some major budget drivers. When we talk about the reason for our budget increasing, these are the major areas. And I want to highlight that some of these items are out of our control, in particular, the ERS, TRS contributions, the healthcare premiums increasing, and the increase in position salary and benefits. That's not just additional staff, that has to do with contractual obligations for contractual increases. I've been asked by a couple of different entity or stakeholders, how much is the $2 million that we're seeing a lot of times appear to us, is that related directly to the elementary reconfiguration? We're not going to know how much that is going to cost until we're well into the fall, after we see what costs are there. Costs we anticipate are moving costs. As we narrow those down, we're starting to get a figure that is right within what we projected, about $220,000 to $250,000. We then have to look at if there's additional staffing costs. We're not anticipating a great deal number of staffing to make that reconfiguration. If you look at these figures here, you can see a good chunk of what puts us close to a $2 million increase.
What is, can you explain the UPK?
Sure. The UPK, you have, Enrique explained that you have to have this as a revenue and an expense, because you are receiving it as a revenue, but from a budgetary standpoint, you also have to expend it to whatever vendor partners are providing.
Right.
So whenever you have a state-funded program, whether it be textbooks, where you receive a certain allocation for per pupil expenditures, whether it be for computer-aided services, you have to have that both as an expense side and the revenue side, because you have to put it in your budget.
It's on both sides. Why would it be a budget driver?
It's not really a budget driver, though.
It's a main component of what you'll see.
The budget driver is that, other than that, is $2.6 million.
Correct.
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. Sorry.
Saying that that's what-
Yes, the healthcare agreement. Yeah. I thought you were recommending a better slide title. Just want to remind everybody, as I said on the next slide, of our Day of Fun coming up. This is where the school district really wants to show its transparency in how we build a budget. Again, the community will be asked to vote on whatever funding amount the board adopts at the end of March. The community votes on that total spending plan, and we hope you feel confident casting a vote based upon the presentation that we've given you since December, showing you what our best ideas are to use those taxpayer dollars. So we will continue that process on Saturday, March 2nd, with an anticipated time frame that you see there. I say that because we've never done this as a district and as a community. We could end earlier, we could end later. There is a draft agenda that Carmen is also linked on board docs. It's linked in this presentation as well. And it will show you, as we narrow down our timing, what codes we anticipate to be held at what time. We will have a introductory session at the start of the presentation. We will have our administrative team in the wings ready to provide context should the board ask questions of the cabinet. The cabinet can't provide the full context. And then there will be opportunities for board discussion, public comment, and it will be live streamed and recorded. In general terms, the instructional program and staffing will be in the morning and operation maintenance will be in the afternoon. We do know that we have some pretty exciting sporting events from our Lady Sailors who will be at the section finals. So we do know people's hearts and minds may, it's having a night, intense update. We also will have to excuse Tom Baker from his portion of the presentation of the context because we definitely want him there with our team. So that is what March 2nd will look like. A reminder of the budget vote and the credentials to be able to vote in that budget. And then the next slide is, should we have to adopt a contingent budget? These are the parameters there. And then the next step is discussion. The board, thank you for your attention to our presentation, and we'll open it up to any questions you have on the content of the presentations. And to assist us in continuing to develop and further refine a budget for your consideration, are the current parameters still acceptable? Is there additional information needed? And I'll turn it over to the board for discussion.
Margaret, I just had a question for your team about the ENL teacher that you have in the elementary school. So you currently have one,
We have one Spanish speaking teacher.
that one Spanish speaking that's going between the two buildings. And next year you're looking for one more.
Next year, we're looking for one more ENL teacher because of the way the students will be parsed in the new
Will there be
reconfiguration.
one per building next year? No. Do you think it would be more beneficial? Are we seeing this teacher that we have now being that much of a benefit that we should look for additional teachers like this one, the bilingual one?
Well, I will say, first of all, that this is one of the most challenging hires right now in all of education. I'm second to special education probably, because everybody is looking for the same person. I think that, yes, there is no doubt that the young lady we hired this year has made a tremendous difference. And you heard Mr. Mackett talk about the connection to families, et cetera. We have someone who will come and add to that program. She's not bilingual, but she will add to that program. What happens next year is that it looks right now as though the breakdown of students is between BV and Frank G. And so we will have 2 and 2. So two ENL teachers at BV, 2 ENL teachers at Frank G. And then our bilingual teacher will rotate between the 2 buildings because her major function is to work with newcomers.
I get that. I was just wondering if it would be more beneficial when we're looking for that other one to find another bilingual so that that person's not being split between multiple buildings and can be a main focus for a building and work with those students all day.
It would mean the addition of another staff member. And, you know, as I said, that's a challenging position to fill, but
So Mark, so the position, we were able to have this additional position. It's not a budget add.
Right.
We are with movement of staff coming back from UPK. That of course would push out less senior staff into those positions, but we are able, because we do have a need and because of staff certification, they are able to fill a role for us of that need in that ENL position. I
Yeah,
don't
I knew
believe
it,
that
yeah.
position is, that individual is bilingual.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't an additional, right, based on this. I'm wondering though, if it would be beneficial to get an additional one.
I think what she's, I think what she said, what Margaret is saying though, is that we don't, from what you're seeing, which is the breakdown of the numbers, you don't need it at Furnace Woods, you really need it at just DB and FGL.
right now, and of course, we all know that things change. We don't know who our kindergarten students fully are yet. Yes, we know probably half of them because they're already sitting in our pre-K classrooms. But right now, I don't know. I think we have one student that will end up being at Furnace Woods next year.
So,
potentially.
so ENL services, so the services that an ENL teacher would provide are based on the needs and the proficiency level of students in the ENL program. So
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I just ask, we had 92 ENL students last year. I believe the K-12.
Yes.
The year before that, we had 81. The year before that, we had 63. Do you know what we have this year?
I don't off the top of my head know what the number is. It's probably around 112.
Okay.
Yes, it goes up every year.
So, but
That's why I'm wondering if we should get an additional
Oh.
teacher.
before you have the students,
can
you want to
discuss
get it?
But
Or you wanna wait?
you only have it for 2 buildings. She's saying based on the demographics of what,
There's still no spot.
Yeah.
no, but I'm just
Yeah, I think
talking
she's
about,
covered.
that this is just, yeah, this is just for elementary, which is what
We
you
have
got.
2 ENL teachers at middle school and 2.5 2.5 ENL teachers are at the high school right now.
I guess that leads me back to my question I had a couple of weeks ago. When are we gonna see like class size breakdowns for the two different, for all the models of the schools that we have?
I think.
Just because I know class size was a big thing that we reduced this
For the
year.
elementary division?
Yeah, and I would like-
Wasn't that in all the drafts that we proposed?
And everything.
Yeah, those were in the drafts, but those have changed since then, because now we're doing the outside provider, right, for UPK, even if that gets approved, or if we go down that route. And I know the numbers from now to then have changed since
So I
December.
couldn't, the outside provider for UPK, we can't tell you what those numbers will look like because we haven't gotten to that registration yet. We set aside 4 classrooms at BB and 3 classrooms at Furnace Woods to accommodate that, thinking that, that was math. Well, yes.
I haven't even registered my son and he's.
I was going to
It's very
give a
hard because
PSA
so
on that.
many people are going to register between now and September.
I know, but we know what our UPK classes that we have now, and we know what our first graders are, right, so like, can't we just? Yeah, but we know what the outside ones are that are
We
going elsewhere that
have,
we're
I
covering.
believe right now, 50 students registered for kindergarten at BB and 38 for Furnace Woods. So I can tell you that clearly that's not the number we will end up with in October when we finally finish registering. So if I'll give a plug here. If you have a kindergarten student,
I'm waiting for a civic call. I can figure out
please
the role.
get them registered. And here's why I say that, and I say that knowing that we have principals for those buildings sitting in the audience. If you're late registering for kindergarten, you miss orientation, you miss the parent event, and we can't repeat that. So we want you to get registered so you can be part of all of those things, which will be starting in late April and through May. So there's my PSA for tonight. I'll repeat that every board meeting.
my superintendent.
And then my next question was, are all of the additions that you have on there I see they have little notes next to them, but I'm saying, are those included in your overall budget that was just presented? What is like, it just says addition, like the one slide, I think it was like the second or third one, where you wanted just like the ENL program that we're gonna, the K-5, there was the additional EIS math teacher.
Yes, so those are both 2 existing staff members that we have repurposed into those roles as we shifted everyone around.
Thank you.
And the new K-5 ELA math program, if we go to Margaret's budget slide. You'll see that under the curriculum development supervision and the curriculum materials, including textbook, that program and associated costs are included in those 2 colors.
Right.
When did you say we were talking about that ELA?
You tell me when, because I think we should, I can announce it,
I'm really excited to hear.
but I also think that there should be kind of a formal presentation with recommendations as to why we picked one over the other and.
But right now it's sitting in this line.
Correct.
Yes.
As an anticipated expense.
Okay.
Right.
Is that annually, year over year, that expense?
No, so when I shared a preliminary budget with Mike, and what I did was pulled out the consumables that are year over year versus the one-time fee that you pay for the materials themselves. It's the consumables that you have to replace year after year.
Okay, and then my other question based on that is professional development. I think the programs were a little different, right? So one program, I think you got the initial PD for free, and then after that, you had to pay.
And then one of the
So
other
we picked a
programs.
program that doesn't give you anything free.
Then there, would you say we picked a program?
Program that doesn't give you anything for free. And we are meeting on March 12th. I have asked the grade level leaders and the pilot teachers to come to a Google Meet where a person from the company is going to walk us through all of the potential materials. And then we can make decisions, because there will be some things, especially because we had the pilot for 6 months, that I know the pilot teachers will say, we don't want that, we don't need that, it didn't prove purposeful. And then there are other things that they will say, absolutely, we have to have. So once we have that meeting, then I can get a budget going. And then the PD piece it's interesting, any new program that you buy now, the PD is more than just a person coming, working with you. A lot of it is live online, a lot of it, right? So it's different, and it's got a lot of different cost structures associated with it. We will try to do something before teachers leave in June. Then we'll try to do something before, just as they're coming back in the fall. And then they have many opportunities to go on and refresh themselves virtually. So
You're saying there's different options?
yes, a million different options. There will also be absolutely a strand for the administrators so that they understand what they're looking for when they go into classrooms. And then a strand that Janine, as the ELA coach, will participate in, because she will really carry the burden of getting teachers accustomed to it, of helping them plan, et cetera.
And then, so once, does someone end up becoming like a trainer for teachers? So do we get new hires?
Yes, so Janine would, that's her role, right?
Okay.
Yes.
So we won't have to do this.
Correct.
We see post-COVID, a lot of these publishing companies shifted to online and virtual. I'm not a fan of it, but online, it gets more
Yes.
teachers able to attend in one spot, if you're not having to find a spot where your entire staff has to sit.
Right.
But I think when it comes to professional learning, face-to-face is often
Yes,
preferred.
and there are many teachers in the district that prefer it. We do have a number of people who are very comfortable in the virtual arena and have taken advantage of literally every offering that's in their dashboard right now. And they'll be important, and our pilot teachers will be very important as support for every grade level as well, because they've walked through the program. So.
All right, I have a few questions. We're gonna go around, or do you want to
Can I
go?
just ask about the ELA program? The ELA program that we currently use, not the pilot, right? Is that in line with the science of reading?
So the ELA program that we currently have is, I would say, in components. So we have teachers at the primary level who use Foundations for their phonics instruction. And we have Words Their Way as their backup to that, which goes K-5. And eventually teaches some vocabulary along the way, et cetera. So that's the word study piece. And then the units of study that we use teach the reading and writing aspect of this. I think what we heard from staff was that they wanted everything to be in one book, one place.
So if I'm not in the pilot program right now,
Yes.
I am still being instructed
You are still
using the science of reading.
Well, you're just, yes, because you
Yes.
still have phonics.
So the curriculum that we are now using,
Mhm.
when was that purchased?
Oh, the curriculum, we're now probably 2017, maybe 18.
Words Their Way.
Words
Their Way was purchased 2 years ago. The
So
TC
Words Their Way was
units-
purchased 2 years ago.
The TC units and Foundations was here when I got here and we expanded it. The TC units, I think either 17 or 18,
And most curriculum revisions happen around every 10 years, correct?
roughly, yeah, depends on when the standards change.
But we just said that our curriculum that we are currently
Yeah.
using is in line with the standards.
Yes.
I just want to throw that out there for the people at home, so they know.
And it's,
Because we are looking at costs and we're looking at everything.
Yeah.
Let's look
and
at everything.
just to be clear, I hope everybody has the same understanding of what the science of reading is. And it's not that one program, particularly the workshop model and the units of study, is often dinged as not aligned to that. The workshop model is an instructional approach of how to teach the units of study. The units of study is the content. And this district has supplemented to add components of what they say is the science of reading, such as the word study or the phonics, and they're two separate things, to build up a full literacy program.
Now, the governor has committed funds to train teachers in the science of reading. Can we utilize those funds for PD here?
So first they have to get through the budget process and that has to get approved. Because if you remember, last year we were talking about tutoring, high dosage tutoring, and that got kicked out of the budget.
Right.
So if it makes it through the budget, I need to, everybody in our positions needs to understand, what is that intended for? Is that pre-service teachers who are moving through, their colleges right now? Or is that post-service teachers who are in the trenches now to get updated training? So it's a wait and see kind of experience.
I mean,
But we have right now, so I could say this, and it's almost pointless because we've moved past it. Foundations is an approach that works from the letter sound. If you think about individual letter sounds and then blending them together to make the word, pulling them apart to see how that works separately and then making new words. And Words Their Way is more of a pattern instruction. So I would tell you, and I taught elementary school, that I think we had the elements that we needed. I do understand how staff felt that they were going here and then they were going there and then they were going here. And in some cases, looking for mentor text to support the reading and writing units, although their written curriculum provides that. They'll have it now in one particular program that will address reading, writing, and word study. Not to say, because we had this conversation on Monday, that this is a perfect solution. There is no perfect solution. And even as we piloted, we found things that would need to be improved upon in both of the pilots. So we have to be aware of that, and we have to be prepared to step in, fill gaps, find ways to address things. It's been an interesting conversation with, I think, a pretty strong pilot team on both programs.
I just wonder, how much more, since we know the governor is committed to the science of reading, how much more funding she's gonna allocate towards it.
Well,
So,
we'll see.
I know we're in a hurry to do things, but I would hate us to miss those funding opportunities, is what I'm saying.
So here's what I'm gonna say. We need numbers and data. We have to be able to show Stephanie, right? Clearly. Sure. We can show Stephanie the growth. So like, if you're not sitting in a class with this right now, where are you? Where did you start? And now where are you? Versus if you're sitting in a classroom with either of these, where are you? Because I think that will show that we probably shouldn't wait. But it's important for you to see, it's important for us to see that.
So are you asking to see perhaps benchmark data from
Yes.
classrooms?
Benchmark data from where they started at the beginning of the year
Mhm.
in each of the areas,
Freeze.
right? With into reading wonders and not having it.
Right.
See the growth in each grade level, if you're in it or if you're not. I sat in the curriculum meeting, I heard something like 118% growth or something for our kids. I heard that there's no kids behind. In a lot of those classes, there's no kids behind.
No,
Grade level.
that's not true.
It's lower.
We
than
just
what-
did the winter benchmark.
But it was part of that. They're part of their presentation was that they're seeing different numbers than they've seen in the past.
I will tell you that a couple of teachers I absolutely know have seen improvement. What was interesting to me was I wasn't just interested in fall to winter. I tried to go back and I couldn't do this. I meant to talk to you about this. I tried to go back to see that same teacher last year, to see if year over year, what was the difference between the kids, because now it's the same teacher. Because you're always gonna have differences from one teacher to the next. Everyone's style is different. So I was curious, not just to say, let's celebrate what we see from fall to winter this year, but right, and that was the stumbling block.
So is there any way that we can sort of see that?
We can see it with local data. So I couldn't see it in iReady. But we can get that. So that's what I want to see, in addition to what you're saying is important. And I know, people emailed me right away to say, oh my goodness, look at this. that is valid, but I also want to see what did it look like for that same person who, you know, might be an amazingly outstanding teacher. How did those kids last year?
And I'm gonna say this, and you can tell me that this is not appropriate, but not to put the principals on the spot here. But do you feel like we could wait on this, in your professional opinion, with what you're seeing in the classrooms and what you're seeing with your experience?
Are we supposed to answer that?
Yeah.
I think, how about if we, as an administrative team?
I think we need,
I think that's a really hard question to answer because the teachers are implementing very effective instruction now with the programs that we have. But with and I think Margaret said it, part of the reason we're looking at a new program is to pull everything together and have it all in one place. And what we found as we've gone through these pilot programs is that there is so much given to us in these programs that the teachers can go through and pick and choose. They have like the core program, but then when they need to differentiate, when they need to do small group work, they can pick and choose different things to meet the needs of every child in their classroom. And it's all right there in one place to choose from. So it's part of it is about the ease of planning and being able to pull from one place rather than going to, like Margaret had said, 3 different programs to figure out what coordinates with what to plan your instruction.
I
that make
also
sense?
think just trying to get data from that is not attainable right now, right? It depends on who those kids are in those classrooms too. It's not just a teacher, who are those students that are in those classrooms?
Yeah.
You would have to go back and look at their achievement from the year prior to see if you can compare those.
Right.
So I don't think that even is a data
What
point.
we would do is we would present it as percentage growth within one of 3 scenarios. We wouldn't drill down teacher level, we would drill down to student. Thank you, Cindy. I'll say this. So being new, I came in and I saw everything that was going on and I said, you're bringing on a new ELA program too? And I bluntly asked Margaret, do we have to do this? And I said, I'm hearing that our teachers are going to be going through a lot. And I believe the overall sentiment is that it's wanted at the teacher level.
Yes, I will tell you, in 10 years that I have been here, this has been, I think, the one unifying message. We've had a lot of different perspectives in math and in word study in the past, even with foundations when we came on and went to expand it. This was an area where the teachers said to us, we want something, we need something, we feel we need something, especially with kids who are struggling, we need to have something that gives us more options with those students.
So this is teacher driven.
Absolutely, 100%. I have people come up to me Monday and say, this needs to happen. I don't know, I'm curious now why she would have said that to me, but she grabbed me and said, this needs to happen. You know, this can't be postponed. We need to have this in our schools.
Yeah, I would say it's a question not to the administrators. It's really something I think you have to ask the teachers that pilot it. They'll be able to give you the best answer to that question. I mean, I can give you my opinion, but I wasn't teaching the program. Yeah, really strong teachers. I know at 2nd and 3rd, I don't know the others in the other buildings, but I know my team that took it on very strong and had very, very good data, I think, to back up any questions that you would have. So I think I mentioned earlier, when it's announced what it is, you know, maybe the teachers can come and speak to it because they're driving it. There is definitely a lot of momentum from the teachers behind this. And for those of us that have been here a long time, that doesn't always happen with programs like this. So there's a lot of excitement, an opportunity to kind of bring people together around a cohesive ELA program so we can really start to move the needle in all aspects.
You know, that's really nice to hear because that was one of my concerns, that it's an additional stress.
Well,
for
it's
the
gonna be an
teacher.
additional stress.
There's no doubt that
But-
this is an undertaking.
But if that's something that they're driving and they want.
Absolutely.
It
So I'll
makes it
just,
work.
I'll tell you that last year, I started with the grade levels through the grade level leaders to give them a chart that said, stop, start, adjust. What do we need to stop doing? What do we need to start doing? What do we need to adjust? And that is where that information started to come to me. We love workshop, we love the pedagogy, but we feel we need more stuff. And they felt they had gaps that they were trying hard to find. And, you know, everybody's an individual person. You find something and I don't find anything. And so in your class it happens and in my class, maybe it doesn't happen, or maybe it doesn't happen quite as well. So this was an opportunity, you know, they went through a process last March. They met with a variety of publishers that we picked based on some things that we were looking for. And then they narrowed it down to these 2 programs and engaged in the pilot. And I particularly thanked the other day the folks that raised their hand to do the pilot, because that's a risk. You know, you know what you have, you don't know what you're getting. And, you know, you could have been involved in something that really wasn't working well. So I appreciated the fact that we had 2 very strong pilot teams that engaged in this process, and I think worked collaboratively across the 2 programs to help us come to a decision. That was important too, that they exchanged materials, that they sat and looked at student work together. So I think this was, I have not questioned the process. I think the process was an excellent one on the part of the teachers. I know Janine was important, our principals were important in providing coverage so that teachers could get in and look at each other's work, et cetera. Many faculty meetings were devoted to having these collaborative conversations. And I will tell you that on Monday, when we finished our conversation about like, what are we worried about? What must we do? I said to them, everybody that wants this program, stand up. And almost the entire room stood up.
So they're almost unanimous.
Yep.
I think all my questions are covered except for, there's 2. One is, have we considered bringing Blue Mountain? Have we looked at their curriculum for ELA? I know where we are with math, but ELA.
We have over the years looked several times at the ELA curriculum, and they had some PD over the past 2 years, not this year, the year before, and the year before that. I would say that would be a conversation worth engaging in. And, you know, we can take a look at, both of the pilots had middle school extensions, which would provide continuity. 8, all the way to 8.
Because this will be a common language. So what the reason I'm bringing this up is, right, it will become a common language for them as they move up.
Yep.
So if we looked at piloting something like this at middle school, it would be common language, common materials for the kids that have K-8.
Right.
Just something to think about.
It's worthy of a conversation. Where it goes, we'll see, but to be able to sit down with the team and look at some materials and say, you know, where are we finding our instruction lacking? And then how would this potentially help us?
And then my other question is, when will we see like, I know we have the EL numbers for elementary school in our presentations generally. I think we need to see K-12, and I think we need to see where we were 3 years ago.
Okay.
Like where were we?
Yep.
Maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I also think that we need to look at like the newcomers versus the proficiency versus the emerging versus.
Yep, great. Okay.
So as
Per grade,
So
right?
as part of every school district's budget process, we're required by law to post our projected E&M through the budget process.
Can you give that to us by grade?
Yes.
I think,
Yes, you can give it to you by grade, by
By language.
proficiency level.
I think we have new challenges, and when we look at right, that's like a large grouping and so many levels. So if
Yes.
there's a way to understand what the
Yes.
needs are within those.
Absolutely.
And I just want to clarify, Lauren, you said 15 new or 50?
15.
15 students.
Yeah.
You know, one easy to identify change that we've seen over the years, and I'm pretty sure you.
50.
No, 50 this year?
Yeah.
No,
At the high
We'll
school.
get the
I get the actual numbers.
We'll break it down by language, by grade, and
We don't have 50.
Benita, we might not be able to get you projected efficiency levels, but we can get you current. efficiency levels.
Current proficiency, you know, and then obviously they nice slat all through the spring, and then we get that information in the early fall. But I think one trend that we have seen that has probably picked up over the past couple of years is kids coming during the school year.
At the secondary level as
Yes,
well.
Yeah.
during the school year, and
Usually around
that's very hard to, especially at secondary, to get kids into classes where they can start to, accrue credits, et cetera.
Are we okay with ENL coverage? The high school next year?
If I think about the roll forward and the exit, I would say we are, but that also depends on, right now, we have a half teacher who's in ENL because there wasn't enough call in her first preference. So I don't know what that looks like. They're working on their scheduling. We will be able to see whether or not we have that 0.5, and if we don't, then we may need to address that.
So we're currently in compliance.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, absolutely.
And then my last question actually is about the librarian,
Which library?
the elementary that we brought on. How are they being utilized? Is it something that we're looking to move forward with next year?
So this year's focus really had, because she came in, in the middle of all of this, and her focus right now is trying to get us ready for the move, because one more time we have to reassemble the libraries to match the age ranges in the buildings. I know she's also trying to get up to speed with some of the computer science standards that Anita will ask her to teach, and then she will be a push-in. So the 3 elementary principals are working on how to schedule her into their programs to teach both digital citizenship, some research skills, et cetera. So.
On slide 8, you have an ELA teacher and math coaches. How much of their day is instructing students? And how much is on PD?
The coaches?
So you have, at the elementary school, it says ELA/math coaches.
Yep. So the ELA and math coaches, and Mike knows this because he was a coach, their work is primarily with teachers.
So it's PD.
Yeah, they don't teach students. If a kid needs help, that's AIS. But their work is to teach you to be a better teacher. So there's PD offered, there's collaborative planning, there are model lessons.
Then I misunderstood because I thought they said helping students to think about that differently.
Well, yeah,
But it's just
in the
through the
sense that,
teachers' heads.
right, exactly.
Okay.
So Michelle's putting that in teachers' heads to put that in front of their class.
The music teacher,
Music.
how are we utilizing the music teacher?
How are you utilizing the music
So
teacher?
we mentioned lessons,
your
but do they?
It's your, we need to find out for both this year and what next year looks like.
So
we're
they're
still building our schedule.
right, still working on scheduling for next
Where
year.
we're at in terms of the reconfiguration is now that we know where our principals are going, now that we know in terms of the instructional program, now that we know the majority of what staff is going where, we now have to build our schedules out, and an elementary schedule starts from building for the specials act. So with shared staff and with contractual considerations, the principals are having to do a lot of collaboration, a lot of moving pieces to make that happen. So we're in progress with that.
Are we gonna have that information prior to adopting a budget on the 27th?
We should, because by that time, we hopefully have the FT, by the 27th. Principals,
Well, how does that impact the budget though, the schedule?
No, I guess the question is if we need to have any additional staff
I
or
don't
anything
think we
needs
need
to be
additional
added.
staff.
No?
No, it's just a question of figuring out who goes where when,
Okay.
right?
And then the music department question, I think we need to be more specific on what we're looking for.
Oh, I think so. I think you were asking how the music teacher, what was the need for the music teacher and
Yes.
how they're being utilized.
Yeah, right.
I know, I think last year we were kind of like wishy-washy on whether
Yes,
we
we
needed
were.
the music teacher or not, so I think maybe some of us aren't sure how that panned out.
So Josh. you-
Yeah, I'll talk
go
about
ahead.
this year.
I think you should also talk about last year with how tough it was with the instructional piece. Pull the kids, right? That was part of the. And
Well, I'll
then,
start this year and I'll work backwards.
yeah,
So this year, the initial plans were to have both Ms. Landry and Mr. Frank take some of the general music classes to fill out the schedule. And it was doable, but what that means is then there's less flexibility in when they do their string and band lessons. Last year, we also had 3 lunch periods. This year, Mrs. Carey was able to do 2, so there were more things to work around. So having the extra person come in allowed more flexibility to not hit the AIS periods, related service, or the ELA or math blocks. The year before, they did do some of those periods. We had multiple lunch periods. Well, there's only been 1 year before. It had the third lunch period, and they were doing some of those. So that's really the main difference. And it's a revolving door in any scenario, and they do a great job working with the classroom teachers, but everyone's fighting for time.
Right, and the chorus piece was different. Right, and how it was presented, so he did chorus this year.
Mhm.
And they did band and orchestra, where the year before, the two of them did all of it. Does that make sense?
And so we're exploring all these options with Mr. Mackin and the team now to see what makes the most sense.
So did this allow for instrument lessons to be smaller groups that are tiny?
It was
Or
less
just
about,
that?
we had some parameters around that, so that didn't really change. The goal was really about protecting instructional time while still valuing the music periods as well.
And to that end, I've asked the principals as they're putting them together, thank you, Josh. I've asked the principals to put together, it's time of change can often be a time of rethinking things. So I've asked them to look at how much we are pulling students out of core instruction, just so we have a good understanding going into a new schedule build, what it might look like.
Well, I thought last year, I thought we weren't, I thought that was like a goal, parameter, not to move kids out. They couldn't go for music lessons during ELA.
We try to have sacred blocks, but you might imagine that sometimes that isn't going to work.
Particularly with shared staff and
Right.
some contractual.
So we start from the premise that common preps are a goal. As many common preps as we can provide teachers on a grade level. So there's that piece of it, and then there's the piece of, I'm pulling you out. And I think what we want people to understand is when you take that child in the middle of my social studies lesson, when do I reteach that lesson to that kid who just left the room?
And the same holds true in middle school.
Oh,
They often do like
absolutely.
science
High
labs.
school too, in high school too.
Right, so.
And that is a problem. So it is a problem that we've been navigating for as long as I can remember, not just in this district, but in other places as well. That yes, we want children to have these experiences, but we also need them to read and write and do math.
So do we offer it to them? Do we let them know?
Do we offer?
So I remember like when my daughter, I'm just speaking from parent hat, sorry. When my oldest daughter first went to middle school, I had no idea that happened. And she came home because she missed science class and she was like all upset. Or science lab, because she couldn't figure out how she would make it up in a group setting.
Right.
So how do we make sure that kids need, if they miss science lab, if they miss them, how do we make sure that they know that there's time for them to get caught up? How do we do that?
I couldn't tell you how it gets done in the building, and especially at middle school.
I mean, I
Who's
guess
out there?
hopefully.
I'll answer in that way. But
Come
I
on,
do want
Josh.
to say there's a good portion of students that have skills as part of their program. They have related services. They're in AIS math, there's AIS reading. So that, if you just have music, it's much easier. We try to have one block that students get pulled out for different things. The challenge is when students have multiple pullouts during the day, and there's really nothing that's not important.
Right.
So that's the population that is more of a struggle. And if you're a teacher by yourself and you can't stop everything to catch everybody up. So it's a constant juggling act, and the teachers are really working hard to do that.
So, okay, then I go back. So we are letting kids know that there are opportunities for them to get help if they miss for music instruction.
Are you looking specifically at the middle school?
No, in general, I think all the way through. I just think it's important that kids know that they can get help and how they get help.
I think
Is it?
being new, that's something I have to dive into,
You know,
but
is
in
it-
general terms, it's normally if you're pulled out for something, that's the trade-off.
Are there office hours or it's like, do middle school students know when their teachers have office hours or after school hours? Is it very, in high school, I think it's a little bit more clear from my experience that they post it and kids know.
There's also more flexibility in the high school.
Middle school, I haven't
I'll
seen
look at
that.
that. I'll look at that answer.
Okay,
Let me say something on this. As the rookie,
at the elementary level. I mean, we're trying to ensure with the new ELA program, fairly new math program, that we have common prep time, right? That's something that should be sacred. And you typically can't even do that because of the number of sections, so you end up breaking up already. So for instance, in my schedule currently, I have 8 sections, I have 2 teams that are gonna get the prep together, hopefully. I don't know if we can answer these questions yet, because we're still looking, we're like almost there. Like we have a couple of different pieces that we're trying to figure out how to efficiently to schedule these staff members while maintaining as much common prep time as possible. To maintain, people eating lunch at the same time with their friends and recess, all the things that we've heard you talk about over the course of the year. So they're important questions. And what I'll say as a newcomer to elementary is there's not a lot of time instructionally in this district at the elementary level. Once you take it, if you ELA block, math block, lunch, special, there's not much left on the bone. So that's the problem, finite amount of time, but really finite amount of time in the elementary school to do the things that we do. So it's a trade-off, like Mike said, when you take music, it is a trade-off. That's you're going to music, you gotta catch up. The problem is at the younger level, it's not as easy as the high school level. They're more self-sufficient, they seek out help after school. It doesn't necessarily happen on this level, but we do have teachers that come in the morning, offer extra help. It is available, so maybe we can communicate, but we need to fix the schedule first to maintain those items of common prep time and efficient use of our staff. And then we can start to delve into that a little more, I think.
That's fair, I'm
Okay.
not, I'm just asking, is that something we
It's a
can?
fair question. As a new person, new to elementary level, I'm looking at it. I say this to my colleagues, I'm being Captain Obvious with some of my statements to all these people, but these folks have had a tough job over the years, coming from secondary now to elementary. The principals and the staff have had a tough job because there's just so much stuff and not enough time.
So while you're up there then, if you don't mind, so I know one of a parameter that we also put out or was decided last year was 90 minutes of uninterrupted ELA, 90 minutes of uninterrupted math.
Mhm.
Is that continuing next year, and was that helpful?
That's exactly
Was
what we're
that-
trying to do.
Okay.
We're trying to be, with fidelity, ensure that those blocks are sacred, right?
Okay.
But so many students come in so many different shapes and sizes, right? Some are fine and they can take music and catch up. Some have all kinds of services they take, but they also want to take music, right? So it makes it even harder. So we're trying to do that. But again, it's very challenging because if you don't pull out an ELA, that's 180 minutes a day that you can't, if we say they're sacred, we don't pull out of. So then what gets hurt? Science, social studies. And we really don't do, in contrast to ELA and math, we really don't do much science and social studies comparatively.
Just so I understand, it was the expectation of the district in previous years that 90 minutes is continuous. Or as long as it
This
occurs
was not
sometime.
our thing, this was sort of,
So was
An observation.
it continuous, was the expectation, or as long as it
Yeah.
occurred throughout the instructional
Yeah.
day?
Doesn't have to be. As a matter of fact, I would say that for a lot of kids, especially the little guys, that's deadly. So you
Well, I was
have to
just trying to
know,
understand.
you gotta read the room and say, okay, let's get a snack.
I'm also wondering, like, you guys now are dealing with the science part some of it going back into the classroom with the teacher, so that's gonna have to get adjusted, right?
Oh, yes.
I know the new ELA curriculum does line up a little bit with social studies.
There's overlapping content even in science, in the units, the themes of the units, but not enough to replace having to teach a kit in Science 21. So, a little bit of the budget went up with that because now we have to order for every teacher, every classroom, where this past year or two, we were doing one teacher, obviously the consumables for all the kids. So we saved some money that way. And now we also have to go back and add training to the people who missed the first round. But we'll get there. And you know, they know how to do it. It's a question now of, you have to be disciplined with your time. Some of us are better at that than others. So you have to know, most teachers, I think at elementary would do a unit in social studies, and then they do a science kit, and then they do go back to the social studies, because the kids get delivered and picked up on a time frame. So obviously you want to teach it while it's in front of you. So they'll calendarize that and figure it out.
Lisa, this is for you. If I'm being pulled for reading and I'm being pulled for speech, I don't get music at the elementary?
Oh, you do. You might not get reading. So that's the trade-off that we're having is there's not enough time in the day, and the middle school's the same way. I literally just had a meeting on a student and they're like, well, she gets orchestra every day. And I'm like, but if you want her to have some, I've got to give her support. Where are we going to do it? So the flexibility of the schedule, especially when you hit secondary, is much more difficult than elementary. Elementary, a lot of times, kids that get OT, PT, speech and reading that are pulled out, they're missing the science, the social studies.
No.
Yep, and then the math AIS, or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that's happening. There's A, not enough time in the day, and B, these are legal required services that have to be, you know, given. The nice thing about the reading teacher is bringing in some of the reading. They're bringing in some of the reading stuff that they're doing in class. They collaborate. We have a fabulous reading teacher, so they're getting both. They're getting the special ed piece of it and some stuff that's happening in the classroom.
I was just wondering if there's any wiggle room to offer, you know, how they did the Parent Academy or after school music programs. So if I do get all those support services, I'm still able to participate in those type of programs. I know I'm off topic, I'm just.
And I'm looking at our principals who, for the cabinet members, we often don't have to see it be bright and cheery for kiddos in the morning, but I know our principals have to have their game faces on. Could we go to slide 19, Greg, and just bring it back? If there's any questions on the content of the presentation or on the parameters that you'd like us to consider, so we can continue shaping this budget for you. And if not, we can let our principals go and our other administrators.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you go, I do want to say thank you, and to add on that, the principals who have been at their building all day, being there for our kiddos and for our students, and still able to put on a engaging and effective presentation. I want to thank you for taking time away from your families, and I know this week is going to be a long one for you, but we'll get through it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Board, are there any things in terms of budget development you'd like us to consider? We hit you with a few new parameters tonight. Dr. Roller and her team provided you with the essence of why we're here, to provide instruction for our students. Anything you want us to consider? And again, you don't have to answer that now. We have until the 22nd. Okay. I didn't use appropriate wait time. I'm glad the principal's left, so they didn't pick on it.
We want to understand the cost of these projects. I mean, it's really a conversation, like,
Greg, could we go to slide 4, please? Thank you, Greg. One more back, please. Thank you. So these are the budget parameters. I don't necessarily, if we were to put a cost to do not exceed tax cap, I think that would be a reduction of.
yeah, no, I mean, and if they're, like, I don't think, I'm not even sure, even the second one you could, but I'm wondering if we want to.
Well, I think I can, something that came up through a data review of our scheduling process. So while I'm gonna try to multitask here, so I can give you an update. So at the secondary level, we are knee deep in scheduling season, and it's a complex situation because we are this year, through our research and analysis of our schedule, we are, and this may be where we have to do a lot of communication to our community. We are currently building a schedule based upon student enrollment rather than running courses. So we are saying our approach is to take a look at a schedule when we see what students want to enroll in and what courses we should run based upon that, rather than let's run these courses and see what students enroll in. Let me give you an example that can help quantify parameter when we look at review class schedule. If you take the average salary benefits of a teacher in Hendrick Hudson School District, that boils down to approximately $112,000. If you take the contractual framework of what we have to work in, and a secondary teacher, in general terms, can teach 5 classes. Okay, 5 classes. That leads to that it costs us approximately $22,000 to teach a course at the secondary level. If you drill that down by the class size maximum for the majority of classes, that gets you to approximately $758. So there is a cost that we can look at there. So you can imagine if you do not fill a course to the max schedule or to the max that is allowed, there is a cost there of not educating X number of students, because that teacher could be allocated to teaching a full class load. So that's the math behind why we're trying to look at that, because you could look at it as this is a class of 10 students who is enrolled in that course, or you could look at it as there is a cost associated for not educating those 18 other students that could be getting a teacher.
Or combining 2 sections.
Or combining 2 sections, correct. So that's how we approach this.
Or looking at it to run something every other year, where you would then max out with the idea that you would max it out every other year.
Correct. So we didn't set that up, thank you. I think we know that maintaining 2 pre-K programs through outside providers, we have committed to not only our state allocated funding for that, but also if we took a look at live birth data and every wonderful, I'm not going to say 4th grader, I'm going to say 4-year-old that could, because if you're keeping track at home, I always say 4th grader for that, who would engage in UPK based on live birth data. We allocated amount of funds so that we didn't have to dip into the budget to do that. We're adding the 2 teachers, 1 psychologist. Those will be captured in our staffing discussion that we'll have this Saturday, when you can see by building, by location, by elementary, overall staffing increases as well.
And is that due to a configuration, or is just due to need, or due to needing a?
So what we're finding is, as you will probably see in my June budget, is I probably am over budget because I've had probably, right, this year's budget, because I've had more kids go out than I've ever had go out this year. It's my first time ever putting a kid in a residential program, so that cost is huge. When we talk about these programs, especially the one at the high school and the one we're talking about making for 4, 5, 6, it's gonna save us more money. So every time you send a kid out, it costs money. Now, this could be teachers that once we get the schedule, because I'm giving you my teacher numbers based on what I know of the schedule now, but there might possibly be a teacher that can fill in that position where you don't hire. But say if the teacher's $100,000, is that what you said?
112.
112. The 2 TAs will say is another 100,000. That's 1 kid going out of district. So if you have 4 kids and then you bring 2 back from somewhere else, then you have a full cohort. Eventually, you could tuition if you want, but I always say you need at least a year or 2 before you bring kids in, so you get all the kinks out.
So this is a program, this is an ad not based on any banding model. This is
No.
based on need, based on.
For our current students, we have done more psychiatrics this year in the district than we've done in the past. So it's definitely a need. This Recov grant is really gonna help us identify our needs in the whole district. So it's not always gonna just be the classified kids.
Okay.
And I just wanted to ask, just on the budget, I guess, when we're looking at it on Saturday, it's gonna show what this year's cost was versus what the next year is gonna be, right?
Correct.
Okay, because I want to see that proven.
Before we wrap up our budget and finance conversations, I just want to set the expectation for Saturday.
Sure.
With the board, and also maybe just talk about what we hope to achieve.
Sure, I'll get to that as soon as I go through. So increased budget funding for building maintenance. I believe that we asked Mr. Molini to include an additional $200,000 based upon some existing maintenance projects that would need to be completed. Increased funding for substitute coverage. Our current year to date is $340,000 spent on substitute coverage where we budgeted 120,000. So we reflected that. And if we want to talk about exploring options for improved human resource oversight, that would obviously involve a person. So you can, most likely would be a administrative position at a cabinet level. You're looking at probably approximately 200 to 200, 180 to 250,000, depending upon the model that the board might like to explore.
And we don't have that currently included.
We do not have that, but it will be in the updated budget after this weekend. And I may be able to even get it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not gonna be.
So, to Greg, if you could go to slide. Slide 16. So the purpose of this line by line budget review is to recap a lot of what we've already done based upon some changes throughout this process. But again, the changes are frozen in time from like February 7th. But it's also to allow the board to have an understanding now that they've had program owners present to you. You hopefully, I say a budget is not just a balance sheet. It is a statement of our educational beliefs and values. We've shared with you what we hope that we value to put forth to you and to the community, and we hope that you have an understanding of what we'd like to do with anticipated funds. This is now where we will drill down to each code, and you will see what we used in the last full year. So the last full year would have been 22-23. You'll see what we budgeted for 23-24 in each code. You'll see what we currently are spending in each code for 23-24, and what we anticipate will be the end of in June for the 23-24 code. You will also see what is proposed for the 24-25 year for that code, and you will see a percentage change and dollar value change. And so we hope that with that data for each code, as we give you time to look at that, if you ask a question, well, why did 2110 increase by 115%? And if, as everybody saw from Margaret's presentation to memorize, you know that she's including her ELA program, and that we transferred some expenditures out of Benita's into Margaret's. Additionally, we will have staffing level data for you, and we hope to have comparative level data so you can see in various topics, where does Hendrick Hudson fall within our regional expenditures or other types of data. That's what we're putting together right now, is what we're gonna have.
And I guess one question I wanted to ask, is there gonna be a space for the revenue, since it's still be like, okay?
Yes.
I just wanna make sure, because I know she got an extra 205,000 in extra title money this year for 24-25. So I just wanna make sure that's gonna be noted.
Well, we haven't put in what's 24-25. We don't know what we're going to
That's
get.
estimated.
Okay, so that's just.
So you saw 22-23
So,
numbers for this
right,
year.
last year, this year's funding, but that's, we never know what
What
we're.
it's gonna
So
look
what do you
like.
just carry, are you just gonna carry over what this year is?
You'd have to ask
For next
Enrique,
year?
I think.
You, in title money?
Yeah, and you're, yeah, are you just?
So in title money,
Actually, yes.
you can only carry forward, I forget what the percentage is, every year. It's a small percentage. that you-
No,
Two
I
different types of carryovers.
I don't mean accrue, I mean, just, are you estimating
she's
it
just
to
gonna
pay
carry
this year?
I mean, I'm hoping.
Okay, all right, I just have.
And we'll know our grants
611.
come in, I think June.
Okay.
We'll see them May, June, so I'll know exactly the dollar amount, because it's published, on the SED website.
Just so you know, grants of the federal grants in nature, you have to say that it is used for supplementing, not supplanting. So in other words, you normally pick something that you would do every now and then. For instance, with federal grants, I'm sure positions went in there, things such as that. But you have to say, we were going to do this regardless if we received title funding with our own local money, we would have just reduced something else. If that makes sense.
When you say we're gonna compare to other schools, so you're gonna compare the codes to other schools?
No.
Are you gonna do
So-
pupil expenditure?
Data such as that. Now, I say that with a caveat because we're trying to compile that data.
Can you also do, student teacher ratios?
So I'll share.
I think we're 9-1.
I shared the topics that we were going to,
Yeah, that's data.
Is there gonna be anything for enrollments?
We will have enrollment.
If we just do the cost per pupil to educated people in like Yorktown, Croton, and then we do student teacher ratios where people can see. You know what even be average class size.
So we're coming down to the wire on getting that in. I believe I shared the topics that we're looking to have in there. I mean,
I just think it'd be helpful for us to see. As a
so
board.
the comparative data that we are looking to have, we're still gathering this, so I'd like to see it. They're comparing our true value tax rates, our assessments at true value, real property taxes, including STAR, true tax rate, our general fund revenue tax levy, STAR, state aid and others, history of cost per pupil, total instructional cost, this is comparative data to other districts. Total teaching expenses, Board of Education, superintendent, staff, finance, actual expenses, comparative data. Total supervision, comparative data, plant operations, comparative data, so breaking our budget code, so in essence, our budget categories now.
I put the student teacher ratio in there too, because I think it's good for the public to see.
And I think we need to have the class size in there.
Just
So we're trying to print this out, so we'll try to get that throughout the process.
You want average? Margaret, you gave that to us once, that our
That's what I did.
average, you gave us the average class sizes and you compared it. And we were pretty close with the surrounding districts.
We were.
For elementary, right?
Yeah, I think it was for elementary.
Did she do middle school and high school?
No, I don't think those were done. It was just for elementary, but it's from like November, so.
I thought it was middle school and high school.
I can pull it up and see. I think we did do something for the reorganization.
You did, yeah. We just need to just have that just updated, so we're looking at
I'll take
it
a look and
to
see.
compare it.
But then it wouldn't be middle school and high school, you would have that, and that's fine.
I think there are places that we can extract that from, right?
Benita, can you grab that for us?
Like a button. I think BOCES collects those categories for the consortium. We'll take a look.
Because I think that's gonna be important when we're looking at the total dollars per building, how many students are there, what it was last year, just so we can compare those.
I think, for me, the thing that still sticks out is $2.6 million that we just have extra. But more than, right, that list of items that is $2.6 million, more than we had budgeted. Right, that we can't change. It's a non-negotiable, it's a non-negotiable, 2.6 million.
Yeah, but we also got the $4.5 million extra in grant, not grant, but the foundation, the state aid. So we got a lot more money in state aid. And we still
But
have-
we were always supposed to get more, because we were coming off of our next.
Yeah, but I'm saying compared to last year, we got
We were
$4.5
expecting,
million more.
we were
So-
expecting that. We also lost 2 million in cessation. fund.
Right, like.
We also lost $24 million from
Right,
Indian
we-
Point.
Yeah, like we were due to get more.
I mean, even with your 2.5 and what you've got in foundation aid, your biggest problem, and it's gonna continue to be a problem for years and years to come, is that you're short $24 million.
Yeah, and then there's numbers like 2.6 million that you cannot touch.
Right, and it's
Untouchable
gonna
money.
get worse and worse. And like, this is nothing, because we still have ways that we can keep everything that we have, but eventually it's gonna be to a point where you don't have that.
Right, I mean, we're also setting a goal or a parameter that we want to be in the tax cap.
Right.
So I mean, we can always have everything, but there's a cost to it, that's like.
I mean, I
the
guess
tax cap.
we all should just hope that we get all the money stated that we have projected. That's my only concern with what this whole overall is going to be.
Historically, especially in election year, we tend to see the legislature not slash from the governor's budget. I wouldn't say historically. I don't, I'm not again, other than $1 here and there, but,
Yeah.
Can we go to slide 13 for a minute? I know Enrique is not here with these projections. Jen, to your point, his projections have us exceeding the tax cap. So everything we're projecting out to the community has us exceeding the tax cap. Maybe we should do a projection of what it would look like if you stayed within the tax cap,
Which is an estimate always.
which is an estimate always,
know.
and how much you would have to cut from each year to maintain it.
Right, like, yeah, because every year we're like,
You're
squeezing it and then moving it, right?
Yes,
Like, that's
we're
what
playing that
just
game.
Moving it down.
But eventually that shell game is gonna come to an end. And I mean, I really do think that this,
But here's the thing, if Enrique's gonna update this, right, this in itself, to me, makes me nervous, right? We had if you look at this, it says it's 6.63% this year of an increase. Next year is 4.21%, then he's doing 2% increases after that. That's what we're showing right now, and if it's anything higher than 2%, then all those numbers of what we're saving in the fund that we have is going to be gone.
and this is also, does it account if we lose enrollment?
Correct.
Because your aid is changing based on your enrollment, and to your point,
But
you can never project state aid. I mean, he's very good. But I do think we're projecting what it would look like with his exceeding, and that 2% makes me nervous too. But I think the public should also know what you would have to cut each year. The amount, although it might not be as accurate to maintain the tax cap.
Well, we started out with the three projections at 22%, 26%, 15 some years.
Yeah, and I remember that. I remember when the first projections came out, it scared the heck out of people.
There's no cessation fund.
Right, but that cessation fund is eventually gonna go away.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what happens the
Every
year
year
it
we have
goes
to
away?
save $2 million.
But we didn't. So when the cessation fund goes away, when that year hits, I wouldn't wanna run for the board.
We're gonna have 588,000 then, so I think that's why we need to look at this as a whole in the entire, just look at it all the way through. Because we're considering if enrollment decreases, but we have a whole apartment that's probably coming to Buchanan soon, so that's gonna be an increase in enrollment, right? And we've just seen it going up, it hasn't been going from the way you guys have been talking, our enrollment has been going up, so if that trend continues, a 2% increase of carryover on these budgets is not gonna be enough to cover anything.
Our enrollment hasn't been going
I
down.
don't know.
And Round Top, was it, or Round Tree, that was the better. Round Top, you only have about 4 students at Round Top.
Something we figured out,
How many?
20 something, I think it was 29.
Well, so that's funny, because when Enrique was here, when I asked him, how many students did Round Top bring into the district? It was 4, it was
Oh,
6.
no, I'm talking currently,
Yeah,
from
we did an
beneath
analysis.
this, from beneath this data earlier in the fall, there were 27 or 29 kids
So,
from there.
I mean, I
Yeah, and they
I
were
do
older.
respect that we have buildings coming in here. But the only district there's only a couple districts that have seen increased enrollment. New York State has had a declining birth rate and has had population migrate out of the state. You have decreased enrollment in all public schools.
I mean,
Yeah, now 10-year data, this one that shows.
right, the 10-year, but just from year to year, like from last year to this year.
Yes.
Is it growing or is it going down?
It's going down.
It's going down, okay. If someone could just get me those numbers, I would love to look at
It's on the website,
Okay,
on the
I'll take a look at it.
restructuring.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
Aren't those all in board doc?
She has it under
It's also under
restructuring.
the restructuring.
Okay, on the
we did-
website. Okay.
On the website.
All right, well, we have a whole day on Saturday to talk about
yeah.
this. So, it'll be plenty of fun. Yeah.
The ELA pilot have to be before the budget, the 27th. Does that not impact your number? I will by that decision.
I hope I will have a more fine-tuned number in terms of cost. You tell me, Mike, if you want us to, you want proposal for that?
Yeah, like.
I think if we have it, that'd be nice, but I think we budgeted in a conservative manner that we put a pile, a placeholder in there that we anticipate would be more than what actually is.
We did.
Lots of people.
Yeah, the last 2 years, it's been steadily going up, not down.
At the high school.
I'm just looking at what she could show you.
She just said she got 15 new students at the high school.
No, she wasn't sure. She said 50, 15.
I think it's
It's not 50, there aren't even 50 kids in the program. It's 15. You mean this year? Yes. Yeah, I mean, when we did the December data, it was like 20 kids
entire school districts.
Right, so if they got 15, I would be shocked. I'm sorry, I don't have my laptop because I'd be able to pull that up. That's one set of numbers.
I mean,
we keep pretty good track of.
I mean, I don't know how many people left. Right, but I definitely hear about the people moving, but I don't know how many people left, so that's just one, that's only one data point.
All right, so before we do policy, Carmen, can we do the superintendent's report? I don't think I said which one went where. Did I? We first did policy, so I think I have to make a motion for superintendent's report to be next before policy. Let's just make that motion. We don't need it, we don't second, all in favor? We need your report.
Okay. Thank you, board. Our students and staff have been very busy since our last update, and I hope everyone enjoyed a restful winter break. We have a lengthy superintendent's report this evening because I kept it short past couple of times. Because we have so much to celebrate, and that's not point. That's not the pun. For our winter sports wrap up, our boys bowling team won the Section 1 championship. They will compete in the New York State Championships on March 8th in Syracuse, New York. Ethan Bromley had the highest average in all of Section 1 for the regular season, and Tyler Morakana had the highest. Moranaka, thank you. Please correct me on the names as I learn our students. Had the highest series in Section 1 championships, and the team also won the league championship during the year. In a similar fashion, our girls bowling team finished 4th overall at the Section 1 championships. Emma Barblett qualified for the championships for the state championships, and she competes in the New York State Composite Championships on March 9th, also in Syracuse, New York. And our boys basketball team made it to the Westchester County Center sectional semifinals, where they lost a hard-fought game against Rye in the Section 1 Class A semifinals. Our girls basketball team made it to the Westchester County Center as well, where they beat in an upset win over the #1 seed Pearl River, and they will play against Walter Panis this Saturday while we are here on March 2nd at noon at the County Center for the Section 1 Class A championships. And they are also co-league champs with Walter Panis for the regular season. And this is the first time in the history of our high school that both our boys and girls varsity basketball teams made it to the County Center. I believe Max Lipton, also sang the national anthem at the start of that. And my son attended the game and was, other than spilling soda all over the place, was fairly well behaved and enjoyed the game. Our varsity cheerleaders placed 4th in the national cheer competition in Dallas, Texas. They placed 2nd in the Section 1 championships. They were the runner-up, losing out to Pearl River by only 1.5 points. So that was a close one. Our varsity ice hockey team, which is a merged team, lost in the Section 1 quarterfinals to the Rye-Town team as well. Our gymnastics merged team won the Section 1 championship. And at that championship, sophomore Maggie Johansson won the Section 1 championship in 2 events. She captured titles in the vault and the floor exercise. She placed 2nd in the overall individual competition, and she will be headed to Buffalo, sunny Buffalo, on March 2nd, where she will compete in the New York State Championships. Our boys indoor track team, two of the members are Section 1 champions. Alex Wong was the Section 1 champion in the 55-meter hurdles, and his fellow senior Demetrius Wells won the Section 1 championship in the triple jump. Alex Wong also qualified for the nationals in the 60-meter hurdles. Placing at the Section 1 championship girls indoor track, the team won the league championship. Sophomore Chloe Howard qualified for the New York State Championship in the 1,500-meter race walk. In doing so, she broke a record that has been held since 1999. So congratulations to Chloe. She also qualified for the Nike Indoor Nationals in March. And senior Lindsay Tells broke the indoor record, which was 9 years old, in the 200-meter and the 300-meter record, which was 10 years old. And she qualified in that feat for the national 200-meter dash. Lindsay also was named, also teamed with senior Princess Golden, sophomore Ava Shambari, and freshman Una McManus to break the school record in the 1,600-meter relay. Then that record dated back to 1981. And so we have a number of those girls placed ready to move on to the next level. Our girls ski team won the Section 1 championship. And with that championship, Eleni Shadaman, Fonty Shadaman, Georgi Shadaman will all participate in New York State Championships in my old stomping grounds of Lake Placid, New York on February 26th and 27th. Make sure you get your skis ready for ice. And in terms of wrestling, our Section 1 championships, all the wrestlers made it to the podium. These wrestlers made it to the podium. Giovanni I apologize, Giovanni Gio. He placed third in Gio. Oh, thank you. I apologize, Giovanni. He placed third in the 138-pound section, weight class. Ben Kushner, who placed fourth in the 138-pound weight class. Sean O'Mara placed fourth in the 145-pound weight class. Ismail Andandre placed second in the 152-pound. Kyle Pesky placed second in the 190-pound. Ethan Volsey placed sixth in the 190 pounds. Brandon Stumper placed sixth in the 15-pound. Mason Dietz placed second in the 285-pound category. And David Perez placed fourth in the 285-pound category. So wonderful accolades for our scholar athletes. In a similar vein, the Hendrick Hudson High School Theater Department is hard at work rehearsing for this year's musical. They will be performing Disney's The Little Mermaid. I'm anxious to see how they do Sebastian and his mates. The cast and crew will produce 4 shows: Friday, March 15th at 7 p.m., Saturday, March 16th at 1 and 7 p.m., and Sunday, March 17th at 1 p.m. Tickets can be purchased at showtix4u.com. So SHOWTIX u.com. It's $15 for adults and $10 for students, and adults 65 and older. So come out and support our theater department led by Claire Carey. And the theater department will also have a special treat for the young fans of the show: 2 character breakfasts in the vein of Disney characters. I've never brought my daughter, nor will I. If you're watching, Stefania, we're not doing that breakfast. 2 character breakfasts will be held in the Hendrick Hudson High School cafeteria from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on Saturday, March 16th and Sunday, March 7th. Cast members will pay a visit during the breakfast and be available to take photos with guests prior to the shows, which are scheduled to begin both days at 1 p.m. Please contact Claire Carey for additional information, and she can be reached at claire.carey@hendhudschools.org. We talked about this earlier. K registration is open. It opened on Jan 16th. You may visit our homepage, and there's a large blue icon on the lower right-hand side of that page to begin the kindergarten registration. And as we mentioned earlier as well, in terms of UPK, we're done reviewing the RFPs for next year, and we will now look to formalize our partnerships with those selected providers in the next few weeks. So be on the lookout for more information. Just a reminder, if you are a parent or guardian who plans to enroll your children in a non-public school and you would like the district to provide transportation or explore transportation, you must notify our transportation department in an official capacity by April 1st, 2024. And that request form can be found on our website under the Transportation Department tab by selecting transportation. We do have information on a proposed capital project, and we've been exploring this capital project to look at bringing enhancements and efficiencies to our teaching and learning environments. At its February 7th board meeting, the Board of Education viewed the presentation and held public discussion on proposed improvements of that capital project. And to fund that, we were looking to propose a $30 million tax neutral bond, which would help fund much needed repairs to current buildings, develop STEM labs, address aging infrastructure, and upgrade facilities that our community members rely on. We do have a number of save the dates for informational purposes, because if you have any questions out there, we want to make sure we address those. You should have received a postcard in your mailing, but if not, we have a few sessions. We have on February 28th at the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. We will be discussing, well, that's tonight, sorry. We had a meeting on that tonight.
It's over.
It happened. On the 2nd, we will be discussing our budget, as we mentioned before. On the 6th, we will just hold a walkthrough of the Blue Mountain Middle School to look at areas where the capital improvement bond could improve that building. So there'll be a walkthrough from 6 to 7. We'll have a work session of the board at 7 p.m. as well. On the 9th, we'll have a meet and greet at the Hendrick Hudson Free Library Coffee Bar from 9 to 11, where we'll be available to answer questions. We'll have another meet and greet on the 13th of March at the high school AP conference room from 5 to 6. And then following that will be a BOE work session in the high school library as regularly scheduled. And then on the 27th, we will have another meet and greet in the AP conference room from 5 to 6. To sign up for the meet and greets, you can scan the QR code on that postcard, or you can go to the link that was sent by Parent Square in my weekly communication, which everybody reads with bated breath. And I never thought I would be talking about this, but there will be a total eclipse of the sun, not the heart, on April 2024. I was very young when that song was out, born in 1978. You're just laughing because you're tired. According to projections, this rare event is likely to coincide with some of our building dismissals. I don't see any solar eclipse days built into our calendar. So we're exploring options to keep our students safe and able to enjoy this rare astronomical event, such as having students create safety viewers in their STEAM classes, providing glasses as a rare possibility, looking to adjust our dismissal time. We haven't made any decisions about that yet. As a reminder, a little PSA here, except during the brief total phase of a total solar eclipse, when the moon completely blocks the sun, bright face, it is not safe to look directly at the sun without specialized eye protection for solar viewing. So viewing any part of the bright sun through your camera, lens, binoculars, or telescope without special purpose solar filters secured over the front of the optics will instantly cause severe eye injury. That is not me being dramatic. That comes directly from NASA. I think I can trust them. Just as an FYI, after this April 8th total eclipse, the next one will be in 2044, which I believe is 11 years after I'm eligible to retire. There are no follow-up responses to community questions, and at this time, I normally tell my children to go to bed, but they have broken my heart and went to a Ranger game without me, so I hope they're enjoying it. No, just the young boy. So, Stefania, go to bed.
I have,
And there are no community follow-up questions at this time.
awesome. I just want to elaborate a little bit on UPK.
Sure.
So I want to confirm that we are offering UPK to all incoming 4-year-olds, preschool age, and there's not even a lottery.
Correct.
Okay, and how will parents know when it's their turn to register?
We will be putting out information once we finalize the partnerships. Normally, Dr. Roller's office will put out information. I'll communicate it in my weekly communication, how to do that. There'll be information on the website.
Okay. Great.
And use Parent Square. So check your Parent Square, check the website, call our office. We'll be happy to help.
Is this something that we anticipate in the next couple of weeks, or is this like an April thing?
I would say in the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
we
so
don't
people should
anticipate
stay
the
tuned in and
contract.
keep checking.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's all I have for the superintendent report.
Okay.
So at this time, would it be,
Yeah,
Cabinet, you are excused because you have an extra one day on Saturday or something.
Are there gonna be? I wish I could. I wish I could. I'm sorry.
I know.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, no pause.
Well,
Love how I'm gonna keep going. Our policy reading section, I believe we have 6 on the agenda for this evening. We are going to begin with policy 0100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity. Erica, do you mind?
Well,
Oh,
well, we should probably explain the revision versus. So there's on a few of these are recommendations of the NISBA to align our number policies with their numbers as well. So that leads us to retiring. And because we're retiring the revision. Because that the wording and the numbering doesn't line up, correct? Is that what I'm?
Or what the new policy is incorporating some of our older policies. Maybe newer policies.
Cause we have, this first one is policy number non-discrimination and equal opportunity. It's non-discrimination, equal opportunity. They're the same name, but we're retiring the old one, correct?
These decisions are not being made in a vacuum or arbitrarily, they're being under the guidance of our policy advisement.
So I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna clarify that maybe we should let the public know that we met with NISBA. We finally were able to meet with NISBA, and we're starting from the beginning of our catalog. We're gonna go all the way through and look at every single one to make sure, redo numbering, make sure that we have everything that's required, and retire anything that needs to be retired, or move some around. So some, when they get retired, might already be appearing in another policy.
Combining
Yes.
or separating or retiring wording. We're not.
I think
retiring
there's only
all
like
terms.
one, yeah, I think there's only like one today that was being retired, but the others are appearing somewhere else in another policy. And so it's just kind of like a cleanup.
And for the public, Carmen, public can see retired policies on our website.
No, they will not. They'll be, well, they're on the board docs right now, they're retiring, but It'll be in our policy book, they will not be in the chart.
So they'll be on our archives for record.
Yes.
All right, so I'm reading. What am I, which one of these am I actually reading?
The first one, what's the first two? Policy 011, non-discrimination, which will have her name.
There's two attachments. One is policy 011, non-discrimination and equal opportunity. And then one is policy 0100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity, first reading revision.
Right, so the one without the revision was our old policy. I wanted to put the old.
Okay, so I'm
policy
gonna
up.
open that one, begin reading it, waive the reading, make the motion.
I don't think, I just put the old policy up there for informational purposes. I think we're just gonna go with the new NISBA.
So the one with the
And the
date
first
of
reading.
today's board meeting, the one we are reading for adoption purposes. The one without today's date is there for reference.
Yes, so you're opening that one. Because that's what we're going to eventually vote on, not tonight, it's just the first reading.
Right. So this is, section 0, policy 0100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity. This is a required policy. The board, we have, there is a note in here that says we have updated the board's current policy to reflect various amendments to state executive law, education law, and civil rights law regarding protection against discrimination on the basis of traits associated with race, such as hair texture and styles, religious practices, and gender identity. This policy offers a blanket notice of non-discrimination of all legally protected classes, addresses public notification requirements, and sets up a grievance procedure for allegations of violations of civil rights. This policy addresses website accessibility for persons with disabilities, further detailed below. This policy also indicates the district will follow the NICEAD guidance for addressing the needs of transgender and gender expansive students. The state's model policy for workplace sexual harassment addresses all legally protected classes and recommends same complaint and investigation process be used for all claims of discrimination.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading. Second.
So in each of the new policies, I think they're noted why we're changing them. So I don't know if you guys want me to get through that portion so you understand fully.
Is it in both?
It's at the top of each.
It's like a
Note. But we don't, Carmen, that's gonna come off.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's just to give everyone an understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. When the revision comes back, that will be crossed off.
No, sorry, I'm saying that the changes from the original to this one are in bold, right?
No.
No,
It's
it's
all
the-
new. It's all new.
It's with the brand new, it's replacing the old one.
Yeah.
Placement, but the revision, because, okay, we're not doing that strike throughs like we did
Yeah.
in the past.
Okay.
We could just do a summary of what it. The first verse.
Well, I think it's important for everyone to understand why we're doing each of these. So let me get through the notes on each of them and then so that there's an understanding of why we're replacing. All right. So we have to make a motion to retire. Carmen?
I don't think in this one, no.
No?
Mhm.
Okay.
We're not voting on this one at all. Because it's a first reading.
Okay.
The next policy is 0110.2, sexual harassment in the workplace.
Okay, this is required. We have provided this policy to expand and replace the board's current policy. This model policy is largely based on a template developed by the New York State Department of Labor and New York State Division of Human Rights that can be used by employers to meet the New York State labor law requirements for a sexual harassment prevention policy. We suggest minor modifications to adapt the template to schools as a workplace. Employers are encouraged to tailor this policy to their individual needs. I think we did that. A separate administrative regulation is not needed. Additionally, the complaint process outlined in this policy serves to replace regulation 011R, 100R, equal opportunity and non-discrimination regulation. And purpose and goals, the Hendrick Hudson School District is committed to maintaining a workplace free from harassment and discrimination.
Motion to waive reading.
Second.
All in favor?
So there are new regs attached to this as well.
Can you read where, on the front page where I told you what was, because there is a title change to one of them, so if you go to this, with the whereas,
You want me to read that?
just so people are aware that we are making a title change. for this
Whereas,
policy.
okay, upon recommendation of the policy committee, The Board of Education of the Hendrick Hudson Central School District hereby conducts the first reading to adopt a revision to policy 01102.2 sexual harassment of employees, including the title to sexual harassment in the workplace, and first reading to adopt policy 0110.2E sexual harassment of employees exhibit.
And the next policy is 0111, Title 4, sexual harassment.
Yeah. Oh.
This is the first one.
Yeah, upon recommendation of the policy committee, the Board of Education of the Hendrick Hudson Central School District hereby conducts the first reading to adopt policy 0111, Title 9, sexual harassment.
We didn't have this policy before. This is a brand new policy that is provided to us.
But it is also required, so we did not have it and it is required. This is why we're doing this, just so everyone is very clear. I've read through each of these, and I'm gonna start reading this, but I'm not gonna read the note, I'm actually gonna read this from the policy itself. Under Title 9, sexual harassment means conduct on the basis of sex that satisfies one or more of the following: a district employee conditioning the provision of an aid, benefit, or service of the district on an individual's participation in an unwelcome sexual conduct. Unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person equal access to the district's education program or activity, or sexual assault as defined in 20 USC 1092 F6AB, dating violence as defined in 34 USC 12291A10, domestic violence as defined in 34 USC 12291A8, or stalking as defined in 34 USC 12291A30. If contacted by a potential motion to waive the reading. Second. All in favor? Anyone have any questions about this?
The next policy is 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention.
So this is the first reading to adopt a revision to policy 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. And first reading to adopt policy 0115E, student bullying and harassment complaint form, and policy 0115R, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention regulations. This is also required, the full revision. So this is the note from NISBA. We have provided this policy to combine and replace the board's current policy 0110.1. This policy reflects the provisions and requirements of the Dignity for All Students Act and Commissioner's regulations implementing it, including changes made under the Crown Act, which specifies that discrimination on the basis of race includes traits historically associated with race, such as hair texture and hairstyles like braids, locks, and twists. This policy also reflects the New York State Education Department terminology of the School Safety and Educational Climate (SSEC) reporting system, formerly known as Violent and Disruptive Incident Reporting. The SSEC incorporates Dignity Act DASA report on harassment, bullying, and discrimination. This is reflected in the incident reporting and investigation section in the cross-reference to policy 5710. A separate administrative regulation is not needed. Additionally, the complaint process outlined in this policy serves to replace regulation 0110.1/R, sexual harassment of students. The Board of Education is committed to provide, this is where the policy begins. The Board of Education is committed to providing educational and working environment. Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second. They need to go to the forms to go. They need to go to the forms. You have to read the,
just the policy.
accepted.
But there's attachments here, and just, I think it's important to call out that this is the policy that defines bullying, cyberbullying, discrimination, hazing, harassment, in legal terms, and, what's under those parameters. And then, so we did have this policy, just different name. So we're retiring the one that
Yes, for retiring.
That's your next one.
Combining
Yeah, the next
two
one,
of the
okay.
combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next section is retire policy 0110.1 sexual harassment of students. And 0120 dignity for all students act. So those are both being retired because of these new policies that we.
Combination.
Going together, okay. What do you have to do?
We have to make a motion to read.
I make don't I make motion to revise or not?
I gave you the wording to retire, so we can do.
Me?
No.
We just need to make a motion to retire the policy.
Right, and then you can waive it for second reading, we can retire tonight, and we don't have to bring it back.
I make a motion to retire policy.
Okay. All in favor?
And then we.
I'll make the motion to not do a second reading and just retire these tonight.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so the first 5 policies, right, we did 5? 4, 5? Okay.
Forward the difference.
Okay,
This is.
they will be coming back at our,
We have one more.
not our next.
We have one more.
We still have two
We
more
do?
to retire. We have one more to retire.
Only one more.
Okay, another page.
We have one more to retire,
Version to-
and we have one more, okay.
A first reading to adopt.
This is the first reading to adopt policy 0150 HIV AIDS. This is not a required policy, but it is highly recommended. But
I was gonna say before you go to, we're gonna adopt this one, but then retire the old one that was just like it, kind of sort of.
Yes.
Wait, I have a question. Should we not be retiring policies without a new policy in place?
So that's why I adopted.
that's what we're doing. This is actually adopting the new this is the new policy.
But we're just doing a first reading. Sorry.
That's true.
That's true.
It's very true. Before, and they should be done at the same time.
We should do the final adoption and then retire them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we don't have a policy, like now we don't have actually a policy for sexual harassment of students. We have to fight on retirement.
Well, I'm gonna say, I'm not sure if I can make this motion, but I'm gonna make a motion to waive the second reading on the required policies put forward by NISBA. Can we do that?
Yes.
I
Hold on
think
one
we need a
second.
second reading, but you have that one by comment, have them be able to send in any comments.
Sorry, should realize that.
No, that's a good catch, actually.
Carmen, who was the mover in each of the retired policy motions? Who made the movement to? In each of the retired, so.
No, there's only one.
There's only one, we only did one.
There's only one, I did the,
If
I
we-
did the first.
If the mover moves to withdraw a motion, parliamentary procedure allows that motion to be withdrawn. If that's what.
Me or her?
You would probably
I withdraw.
Wait, wasn't it that?
be, she was seconding she made the motion to retire the policy, you seconded it.
I made the motion to retire it without doing a second reading of it.
Yeah.
So to retire it immediately, so that would be me retracting that, correct?
That's what I.
So you wanna make a
So I
motion?
So you would request, I'm sorry,
No, no.
you would request withdrawal. If anybody objects, if nobody objects, we can move forward with that request to withdraw.
I'd like to make a request to withdraw my last motion to retire immediately.
Second,
All in favor? Okay, so we quickly undid that
So for
scenario.
the record,
Oh,
the
yeah,
policy,
yeah, good
the
catch.
policies were not retired.
we have to have the policy in place.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
That was a nice job, parliamentary.
Carmen, make note of that.
I
I was gonna say, Carmen should make note of that, that all our retireds now go to when we do the second readings.
Yeah.
For future.
Yeah.
Don't let us forget that.
Okay, so let's do these one more.
Okay, so now we are reading HIV/AIDS 0150. And like I said, this is not a required policy, but it's highly recommended. It's replacing another policy. The Board of Education recognizes the public concern over the health issues surrounding human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, and acquired immunodeficiency syndromes, AIDS, The board recognizes based upon the current state of medical knowledge that the virus associated with AIDS is not easily transmitted, and there is no evidence that AIDS or the HIV virus can be transmitted by casual social contact in the open school setting. The board further recognizes the privacy rights of
I'd like
students.
to make a motion to waive the reading.
Second. All in favor?
We're not gonna, we were gonna retire, we're just gonna leave the.
We're gonna
do that.
For the next one,
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to.
right, we're gonna do nothing with it.
Nothing with those,
It'll come back.
come back and then retire more.
So our next
Yeah.
meeting is a work session. We're not gonna be bringing these there. It'll, oh, sorry, not Saturday, not March 6th, March 13th, these policies, No.
Another work session.
March 27th. That's when they will come back for a second reading, discussions, questions, concerns, and we'll vote on it. And possible retirements.
March 6th is, we have it as a work session.
And the 13th.
Work session, like our budget. Do that.
Well, it's next week, right?
Yeah.
It's our work session.
Just for like the January, February one.
I agree. Okay, any questions?
Yep, can you also, in our agenda, we approved our next year's school calendar.
Oh,
We should probably let it.
yes.
Oh, yeah,
Good reason.
Yes.
You are on that game.
So.
There were people asking me,
So
so.
in the consent agenda under 5.2 general, in public content, you will see our approved 2024-2025 Hendrick Hudson School District calendar. I believe that is what is referred to quickly as the one-page calendar. So you will see there are all of the days that school will be in session and the days that school will not be in session. So we would ask our
Should we just announce the first day for students and the last day? I feel like that might be.
first day of school for our kindergartners, first day of school for our elementary students, which will be a half day, will be the 3rd of September. And then everybody coming back on the 4th.
Oh, really?
No, I'm sorry, it's the first day of school for everyone, but a half day. I'm sorry, for K-5.
Then our last day is.
Yeah, and just as a note for the public, we have contractual, and most districts within this region tend to follow the PNW BOCES calendar. So early in November, BOCES started talking about what their calendar would look like. Most districts tend to follow, with some exception here and there, BOCES breaks. And then we actually have contractual considerations that say we prioritize the BOCES calendar to try to remain close to that. So that's why you'll see we have a extended break for the winter recess, the holiday recess in December of next year.
All right, any committee reports, board comments, new business?
Safety committee, just wanted to update, we were talking about, policy that we have. And a policy that we have in place is every visitor, when they go to a building, is required to show their ID. I know there are some individuals who go more often than others, but according to the policy that we set in place, just want to remind everyone who goes to schools to make sure you have your ID on you so that it makes the process easier. It's a requirement. If you don't have it, then there's another process that we have to go through.
And to that end, we had a series of administrative team meetings this week, regularly scheduled. And we did share the regulation, which puts that policy into place for our security staff and monitor staff to follow.
That doesn't count as sporting events.
No, it mainly is when you're going to an event during the day, when students are there. We were talking about ways to alleviate, like maybe like a pre-registration, for days, like when there's a concert or something, but let's say you're going for a class party or school store or anytime when you are going into the building, I know there are like, especially like our PTA members or class moms or anyone, that they go often. Sometimes we get a little lax with it, but we're just trying to remain true to our policy and make sure that everyone is showing their ID at the door every single time.
So after hours, when school is not in session, that is not the policy. It's only when school's in session.
The policy still is in play, but we often don't have the staff. So we have to look at how do we accommodate that? So from a security standpoint, these buildings are open all night, right? Almost all 24/7. What could prohibit somebody from coming in during one of those times and remaining? So we will look to, with our security consultant and a safety committee, look to see how we can balance ease of access with security parameters.
Oh, they were locked, they're just open.
Well, as far as during the events.
Okay.
No, our buildings are secured after the last event.
Yeah, no, well.
Yeah, I apologize for that. They're constantly people used.
I guess the audit committee met, and so we're finalizing our audit
Internal audit cycle,
for this year.
correct.
Yeah.
So each year there's an area of focus that the board or the audit committee chooses to have an internal audit on.
So we did HR, so we're proposing to do. We actually finalized.
Payroll and resilience. Resilience.
Resilience. Okay. So yeah, we finalized, well, we almost finalized our HR audit, we just have some wordsmithing to do. That's it. And I guess it's safe to share that this is probably one of the drivers that, that is why we added the parameter to add an HR. We did some background about, what other school districts in the area are doing, and I would say 80% of them, it looked like from what we had received from our internal auditor, were using a centralized HR, person.
Dedicated.
Dedicated to HR. Okay. Talk about that Saturday. Sure. Anything else? New business, any comments, any?
No, I want to make a Blue Mountain Middle School tomorrow is having their March Madness events. At Blue Mountain, Friday night. And then the high school next year, that high school next week, I'm so tired of this one, I'm so sorry, guys. The high school next week on Friday is having their senior fashion show. So all the information for those events is on their website. The middle school event is only open to middle school students, but the high school event is open to the entire community. And it's a huge fundraiser for the PTA and the class of 2024.
I apologize for not having that in my superintendent.
Oh, then I'll do a shameless plug. Next week is Spirit Week for elementary school, so
Yes.
make sure you check out what the days are. So.
Great, all right.
I saw that today.
So we'll see everybody Saturday at 9 AM.
8 AM.
8 AM.
Awesome.
Oh,
We'll see all you.
All of you folks, 9 AM. Okay, I have a motion to close the meeting. Motion. Second, all in favor? Good night.